Hello, my name is Chris. I use Maya on Linux, and today I'm going to show you how to install Maya 2027 on Fedora 43, and later how to get it on Fedora 44 if you haven't upgraded already. So yeah, there's been some changes as far as how to get Maya installed on these unsupported Linux distros, and I just wanted to make a new video just to have a fresh start and show you how to get it on these newer distros. So let's get started. So you may be wondering why we are installing Maya on Fedora 43 and not 44. Well, it's because I've had some issues trying to get Maya installed on Fedora 44 once you have a clean install. And I managed to get it installed on Fedora 44 beta. And then the beta, once they did the second freeze of the beta, all of a sudden it stopped working. And once I managed I have my standard system, it manages to work, and here I'll just show you how to get it if you haven't upgraded to Fedora 44. Normally when it comes to Fedora versions, you usually wait a month for all the issues to be ironed out, and then you're fit to upgrade. So for all of you sticking on Fedora 43, like patient beings as you are, stay put, and you should be able to install Maya just fine on Fedora 43, and then you can upgrade after that, which we'll show you how to do in this tutorial video. So with that out of the way, let's actually get started with the installation process. The first step is actually to get a X11 desktop or window manager installed. So right now, I'm running Fedora 43 KDE, and I have the Cinnamon desktop loaded in, and it's a pretty nice, pretty easy to use desktop. It looks like Linux Mint right now. All in all, you just need an X11 window manager, so something like Cinnamon or Mate or XFCE. I managed to get Maya running in i3 even, and that's pretty fun. It makes a really neat experience. So the reason why you'd want to have an X11 desktop is because the Autodesk Identity Manager, which is Autodesk's DRM, does not work on Wayland. So you're going to have to log into Maya first on an X11 desktop, and then you can jump into Wayland and start using Maya like you normally would. And the good news here is that Maya 2027 seems to work okay in Wayland so far. There are some workarounds you may have to do regarding certain aspects of the desktop, but once you manage to get it all up and running, you should be just fine as far as getting Maya running on Wayland, and hopefully we should have a native Wayland version, because RHEL 10, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 10, dropped X11 support entirely. So everything's running through X-Wayland now. So hopefully we get all that ironed out very soon from Autodesk, and we can actually run it on our more modern systems. It's all because of the DRM. That's why. So let's actually begin to install Maya proper. So the first thing we're going to have to do is actually install additional libraries that Maya needs to run, and these should be pretty easy to get. I'll just have a little bit of text in the description to list all the libraries, but I have a little document here on the side next to my virtual machine, which should have all of our required libraries here. So all we're just going to do is a sudo dnf install. And here's all our libraries. The biggest things here that you're going to need in order for you to avoid getting errors is the Xorg fonts and audiophile, which audiophile actually is needed to run in order for you to import audio into your timeline. So let's just go and install these packages real quick. And a lot of this is installed for you, but we just need these here. All right, now we have all the libraries that we need. So the next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get OpenSSL 1, which if we actually do a DNF list grep OpenSSL, will show that we already have a newer version of OpenSSL installed on our system, which is not the one that Maya wants. Maya actually wants OpenSSL 1.1, which is actually becoming end of life very soon, but it's what is used right now on Rocky 9. So that means it's going to be quite an old library. But thankfully, we are able to get it ourselves by going to the Fedora archives, where we can pick up OpenSSL 1.1, which would be the last version on Fedora 36. So let's actually go, and I already downloaded these packages. I will provide a link in the description in order for you to grab OpenSSL, but all we're going to have to do is a sudo dnf install. OpenSSL1. First we need the 32-bit version, and then we need the 64-bit version. So here we go. You're just installing OpenSSL, the version that Maya wants, and boom. Once we have that in, then that's one step to getting our DRM working. So the next thing we're going to have to get is JavaScript Core GTK, which is a older version of JavaScript Core GTK to get WebKit to GTK4 installed. Again, this is all for the DRM. So what we're going to have to do is do a sudo dnf install and grab the link to the actual library itself, which should be right here. So it's going to grab the package from the Fedora 42 repositories and give it for us. So here is JavaScript Core GTK. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install WebKit to GTK4. So let's go install WebKit to GTK4. And this should be the link for that. All right, now we have those installed, and next we can go to the next step. So next what we need to do is we need to install RPM development tools, which we're going to need these to build our fake RPM of WebKit to GTK3, which is what we need for the identity manager. So let's just go ahead, and this is a package group, so all we need to do is a sudo dnf group install, and we do RPM development tools. And this will install a whole load of things, but if you need to build your own packages at any point, this would be a really good package to have, package group to have, so we'll just let that do its thing. All right, so now we have the package group installed. Now we can actually get to install the Maya packages themselves. So in order for you to actually grab Maya's packages, what you're going to have to do is you need to log into your Autodesk account if you're a student or a regular Maya user and just grab the latest version or the version you want to run. Everything post 2024 is going to work, and with this process. So I already downloaded Maya already, so you're going to have to get the version of Maya you want. In your case, in my case, we're going to install 2027. This process also works with 2024 all the way up to 2027. And then we're also going to be installing the latest version of the Autodesk licensing service and the Autodesk Identity Manager. So let's just go and extract these archives, and then we can get to installing. All right, we extracted the packages. So now we have the Identity Manager, Maya, as well as our licensing service. So most of the rest of this guide is going to be just following Autodesk's instructions on installing via the RPM packages. So we're going to have to follow this sequence of steps. Some of this, to be honest, this guide is pretty bad. So some of these steps you don't even need to do because, for instance, the FlexNet client is not available within Maya 2027. It just uses the FlexNet server, but we'll get to that in due time. So let's actually get to installing these packages. So first we need to install the Identity Manager as well as the ADP SDK. So let's go to cd ADSK Identity Manager into Packages and then ADSK Identity Manager. And inside here we actually have the RPM package we will need. So we will just do a sudo dnf install ADSK Identity Manager. And that should be our package. All right, it installed the package. So now let's go and move on to the next step, which is going to be with the ADP SDK. So we're going to move out of that directory and go to cd ADP SDK. And now this is sort of a strange step. We're just going to copy and paste these commands here, where we're going to make a directory in opt Autodesk ADP desktop, where we will store the precompiled binaries. And then we're going to unzip the package itself into this directory. And there we go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the Autodesk licensing service, which we already downloaded the latest version, which all we have to do is do a sudo dnf install ADSK licensing. And there's our package, All we have to do is hit yes to that, and we should have our package installing. Now we have the licensing service installed. So now we can go inside the Maya directory and into our packages and then licensing. And here is the rest of our licensing packages. And all we need to do now is install the FlexNet server. So we do a sudo dnf install adsk FlexNet server. And we will notice one of the first peculiarities about installing Maya on something that is not Red Hat. As you'll notice, sometimes you'll see this error saying OpenGPG checks failed and no digest. So what this means is that the package has not been signed for the new version of RPM, which is now in Fedora 43. This is a huge problem with installing Maya on these OSs, and if you're installing an older version of Maya, you're going to run into this error more often. If you're going to install Maya 2024 on Fedora 43, you're going to have to use a workaround in order to install these packages, and said workaround is using a different command. So instead of dnf, we're going to do sudo rpm-ivh no digest, no file digest, and then we're going to run the name of our package, so the adsk FlexNet server. Hit enter, and it should install it automatically. All right, so the next step that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to see if the licensing service is running. So all we have to do is a systemctl status adsk licensing.service. So as you can see, the service is running in systemd, which is great. That means that we have done all of the steps correct so far. So next, let's actually get to install the Maya package itself. So let's go cd out of licensing, and we will just do a sudo rpm-ivh no digest, no file digest, Maya 2027, which is the name of the package we will need, and then force. And then this will install Maya itself. Since we're running in a VM, this installation may take a while, but on your system, it should be a bit faster. All right, Fedora finished installing the Maya 2027 RPM. And now we need to see if the licensing service actually registered Maya for us. So the next command that we're going to have to run is we're going to have to navigate all the way to the ADS licensing helper, and then we're going to list the licenses we have installed. So to check to see if the Maya installation is actually registered with the licensing service, we're just going to have to run the following command, which would be /opt/autodesk/adsk licensing. And instead of version numbers, just do current /helper/adsk licensing inst helper, and then list. And if you see information pop up, then that means we have registered Maya in our system, which is great. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the other additions to Maya, including Bifrost, USD, and Substance, as well as Arnold. So the first thing we're going to do is install Bifrost. So we do a sudo dnf install Bifrost, and that should give us Bifrost in case you need to do any fun simulations. Now that Bifrost is installed, now all we have to do is sudo dnf install Maya USD, so we can use the USD file format in case you need to transfer assets between various DCCs. And then we're going to also have to install the Substance package. So we're going to have to do sudo dnf install Adobe Substance 3D for Maya. And this would be good for interlocking Substance Painter with Maya. And next we're going to have to install mtoa, which is Arnold. So we just have to do a sudo /unix installer.sh. And that will get Arnold installed for us. There we are. Arnold is installed. So with all those installed, let's go ahead and do the next step, which is to make a symlink to libtiff. So Fedora, ever since Fedora 41, shipped a new version of libtiff that Maya doesn't read properly. So we're going to have to go and make a symlink in order to get Maya running. Unfortunately, a little bit of a limitation is you won't be able to open up or read TIFF files. So if you have a file that uses TIFF for textures or anything like that, you're going to have to convert those to pings or some other image format that Maya will understand. So in order for us to actually make this symlink, we're going to do a sudo ln-s/user/lib64/libtiff.so.6, and then the Maya installation directory, which should be /user/autodesk/Maya, your version number, so 2027 in our case, /lib/libtiff.so.5, which is the version Maya wants. With that symlink made, we can move on to the next step, which is to make a dummy RPM of WebKit 2 GTK3, which is the WebKit version that the Autodesk Identity Manager needs to run. And I already have this command written out, so let's just go into our home directory here and make a file. So you can use any text editor that you want in order to create this file. So you could use kwrite, TextEdit, Pluma, or in our case, text editor, in order to create our text file. So I'm going to give you the script itself in the description, but here is the script, which what it's going to do is just create a RPM and then install it for us. And then all we have to do is save it and put it in our home directory, and we're just going to call it make WebKit 2 GTK3 dummy.sh. And it's just going to be a shell script that does exactly this. All right, that dummy sh script is created, and it's now in our home directory. So all we have to do now is make it executable with a chmod +x make WebKit 2 dummy sh, and it should be executable. So we do a sudo / make WebKit dummy.sh. And now that's installed for us. All right, let's actually launch Maya itself. So we'll run into, I caught myself a little bit. There's a bit of an error going on with the newest version of the licensing service. Once you actually hit the Maya command, it should pop up a window showing buttons to go actually launch Maya, but the newest version actually gives you this gray box. So just so you know, it's supposed to look like this, and the launcher window should look like this, and you just have to click the topmost button right here. So just click that, and it should open a dialog. There we go. The Identity Manager opens up a dialog which prompts us to log into our Autodesk account. So let me just log in real quick. And then I'll enter my super secret password and also do my super secret two-factor authentication. And now we should be signed in, and always allow the link to open here, and Maya should open up for us. Here we are. And here we are. Here's the Maya window opened. So I'm an experienced user, and there we are. Here is Maya. So, and now you can just run Maya like you normally could. Right now the window drag option is mapped to Alt, which is our tumble move, but with this now you could just use Maya like you normally could. And also, as a little bit of a heads up, now from now on you don't need to run Maya from the command line every time. It should just be available as a desktop entry, so you could just search it up and Maya should be right there. All right, so now we have Maya installed. So what does this mean now? So now that you have Maya installed, you should be able to launch it in with some workarounds that I've seen online. You should be able to get it running on Wayland, and I'll demonstrate for you real quick. So now I'm back in the Plasma Wayland desktop instead of Cinnamon, and with certain workarounds, you should be able to get Maya running inside a Wayland environment. The only thing is you're going to have to launch Maya first in an X11 environment for the DRM to check you in. But then after that, you should be able to launch Maya in a Wayland environment. And as you could see here, it's working okay. I have a feeling because I'm running in a VM, certain things are going to work better, because if you're running off of dedicated graphics, you may have some issues getting Wayland running. So if you're going to use Wayland, you may have to do some workarounds. There are some commands out there to get things like the viewport 2.0 working, but to be honest, if you want the best experience of Maya on Wayland, I highly recommend just installing Maya 2024, which for me has worked the best on Wayland. I run an NVIDIA video card, so I think that maybe helps a little bit. And there are some limitations with getting with Maya on Wayland. For instance, you won't be able to dock windows, and certain stuff like the animation editor sometimes won't have, sometimes in certain indications won't actually render the dang window. But in this case, it loaded up just fine, which is pretty sick. So now, all about getting this running on Fedora 44. So I haven't managed to get Maya running properly on a standard Fedora 44 installation, but I have managed to get Maya running by upgrading from Fedora 43 to Fedora 44. So there are some precautions you will need to make before you go ahead and hit that upgrade button. So the first thing you're going to have to do is go into your DNF preferences and disable certain packages from being uninstalled. So the first thing we're going to have to do is go and edit our dnf.conf, which you will need root privileges in order for you to do this. So I'm just going to do a sudo vim/etc/dnf/dnf.conf. So now that we're in dnf.conf, we're going to have to exclude some packages from uninstalling themselves before we upgrade to the next version. So we're just going to do exclude equals javascript core GTK 4.0 and WebKit to GTK 4.0. And these should allow us to get around the limitations of upgrading. So by putting those entries into our dnf.conf, that means that those packages will not be uninstalled when we upgrade our system or even do standard updates. So let's actually go and upgrade our system just to demonstrate that it does work on Fedora 44, so you can get that flashy new GNOME 50 and everything like that. So all we have to do is just hit upgrade now in our DNF store or the GNOME software and just hit update all. These will not be uninstalled, much to the disappointment of KDE, and we'll hit proceed, and we should be able to upgrade our system from here. So it appears we have the update installed, so let's go see if Maya works. And boom, we have Maya loaded up and ready to go. So I did a check earlier, and it looks like that it did manage to uninstall those packages that we needed. If you run into issues later on in using Maya, like the licensing service doesn't log you in or anything like that, then you may need to reinstall those packages and get those back up and running. So there you go. There's my guide on installing Maya on Fedora 43 and then upgrading to Fedora 44 to go see it working just fine. Do I think this is worth it? I do think it is, because I think Maya is such a great program, and it is a lot of setup to get just one stinking program running. I really wish Autodesk could make this a bit easier for us. Before, it used to be a little bit easier, but now they added a lot more steps in order to get this dang program running. So if you need Maya for school, or you're trying to learn about what the world proprietary 3D art programs are like, then Maya on Fedora is not a bad choice. But if you really want less headaches and you think jumping into a command line is a bit scary, just consider trying out Rocky Linux 9. It's an amazing distro. You probably won't be able to game much on it, but just using it as a creators first, artist first distro with focusing on X11, then it's going to be a great ride, and that's the thing that Maya directly supports. So and if that doesn't jive with you, or you're not using Maya for school or anything like that, there is always Blender, and donate to the Blender Foundation, because they're making an amazing program that is ready to take on the big leagues like Maya. So there you go, and hopefully we can get Maya installed a bit easier later on, but in the meantime, this is what we will do, and good luck.